The marketing mix screen is a decision screen where you will decide on pricing, production, and promotion. So you'll want to do some demand projections and then figure out how many units you have in inventory and subtract that from the demand, and that becomes the number that you will want to order for the next period. Okay, so you can see that last period, 18,000 units of rock were sold. You have 0 units left in inventory. If you have estimated that this period there's going to be, demand for say 27,000, you would just go ahead and put 27,000 as your production size order. But actually what I would do is I would probably add a little cushion to that. You don't want to run out of product, so it's good to be a little optimistic. So if you're estimating 27,000 units sold, go ahead and bump that up a little bit. It's okay to have some units left over, as long as it's not a huge number. So that's what you do there. Price, you've decided on a particular price. It tells you what your price was last period. If you want to change the price, you just go ahead and do that. Okay, be careful about price drops. Don't get into a situation where you're panicking because you're losing market share and your first inclination is to just go ahead and lower the price. It's not always a great thing, especially in the higher end segments. If they're high-end segments, they see price drop as some sort of negative signal. What's wrong? Why did they drop the product? What's the problem? Then advertising. You have to decide how much money you want to spend on advertising. And so advertising media is just dissemination of your messages. That's the placement of your messages on TV, radio, outdoor, digital. Research is money that you provide the research department to better understand the target market, so the messages that they send out are going to be more effective and be more persuasive. Okay, so you want to make sure that you do sink some money into advertising research. As you go through the periods, if your repositioning efforts aren't really working, you're not really moving the needle, then that would argue, I would argue that you need to increase your advertising research dollars. Okay, down here is where you specify your targeting. Who are your target segments? How are you going to focus your time? Generally, it's a good idea to be very focused and maybe even fully focused on one particular segment. It's really up to you, but it's kind of something that we tend to recommend. Now, note that doesn't mean that if you focus all your efforts on, say, the professionals, that the other segments aren't going to see your products or see promotions for your products. They still may. It's just that focusing on those who are most likely to buy your products is generally a pretty good strategy. Perception objectives. Okay, so these are linked back to your advertising research money. So basically, if you want your advertisements to focus on some particular level of some particular variable, then this is where you would do it. So, okay, we know, for example, that our target segment, in this case the professionals, their ideal battery life on the semantic scale, from the semantic scale reports, is a 3. So let's create an advertisement or a promotional campaign that really focuses on or promotes the fact that our battery life is a semantic value of 3. We also know they like processing power of 5, so we'll set that to 5. So these are instructions to the advertising team to create messages that focus on this level of battery life and this level of processing power. This is how you change perceptions or the position of your brands. So you definitely want to use these every single time. Also know that how much money you spend on advertising research will determine how good this or how powerful this particular message is. And so you want to spend enough money to create an excellent message quality. So there's a research study that will show you basically what that message quality is, and if it's poor, then you're not really doing anything. You need to spend more money on it. Okay. So we made decisions there for rock. You could also do the same thing for roll. You just create, or you just repeat the process. So in this case, you will see there were lots of units left over. So if um, you sold 30,000 last period, say you assume that this period you're going to sell 50,000, knowing that you have 80,000 left over, you would set this to 0. You don't need to order any more product. Okay, so once you estimate demand, subtract out units in inventory, and that gives you kind of how many you should order, but then always be a little optimistic and add some to that. But in this case, we're at negative 52,000, so there's no reason to be optimistic and order any more product. Okay, so that's the marketing mix decision screen. This is where you again make decisions on production, pricing, and promotions. One thing I didn't mention is this advertising budget is also linked to the digital marketing decisions. So if we go back here, you will see that the numbers that we entered for rock and roll in terms of advertising expenditures, here we kind of allocate across all 5 different promotional techniques. Traditional ads, outdoor ads, digital earned, digital paid, digital owned. You just can change these percentages however you would like, and then you'll come up with something that has to add up to 100%. And again, should be based on this, your particular target, where do they shop. So professionals, if they're our target for rock, we know that digital owned preference is 20%, digital paid is 20%, and actually it's 20% across the board. So you would just probably want to convert all these to 20%. So they perfectly match the preferences and will give you the most bang for your buck. So that's it in terms of marketing mix and a little more of a rehash there on digital marketing.